Okay, so I'm just going to go through a couple of bits and pieces here about my sort of thoughts around generating online bookings. I'm going to sort of throw a few questions into the audience and hopefully I'll get some feedback from you guys as well, which will be good. So a little bit about us. I don't know if, do we have anybody, a customer of ours in the room at all? Oh, excellent. Hello. I'll come and say, oh, and you over the back there as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about Eviivo. We basically provide a booking system for accommodation businesses. We work with around about 200 properties across Somerset, and we also link in obviously with the Visit Somerset website as well. So what I want to do is go through a few slides here, and the first thing I wanted to sort of get everyone to think about and get some feedback from you is, so where do we sort of think that bookings are coming from? So where do we think the biggest slice of that 53% is coming from? Internet, booking. What type of channels? Where do you think most accommodation bookings are coming from in the UK? Think about where would you book if you're looking for accommodation in Weston tonight? What would you do? Airbnb? Excellent, okay. Okay, phone the travel agents? Online travel agents. They said phone the travel agents, but online travel agents, absolutely right. So the reality is that the majority of bookings that are coming into accommodation businesses are coming in through online travel agents, the likes of Airbnb, Expedia, Booking.com, etc. And that has been growing, and they have seen some phenomenal growth in the last sort of 12, 18 months, and that will keep going. The 34%, where do we think that one is? Where else do we book? Think about how do other people book? Onto your website, okay. Anyone else? Okay, so actually it comes phone and email. So there's still a very large proportion of bookings is coming direct. And the reason I highlight that, the job that I do and the work my team do is we're calling businesses every day, trying to sell our services, of course. And I would say about 70 to 80% of phone calls we make do not get picked up. And they do not know we're a sales call. It doesn't come out from it just comes out from a London number. So I think that's a really, really important point, that there's still a lot of people out there that want to be able to book, want to have that conversation, want to interact like that. The next one is actually the website and then social media. So the website is still a very, very important part. I know we've talked a lot about social media today, and I'm not suggesting social media is not a waste of time, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that it's just thinking about how much time you spend on which of these elements to get that return. Because the reality is that the online travel agents basically no time. Your website, you know, there's a good return there, but it may require a bit of effort to get it sorted. Social media potentially could take up a lot of time. But phone and email, yes, that does take a lot of time. You've got to be by the phone, you've got to answer emails, but it's equating for over a third of bookings. So it's valuable time spent. So we mentioned about online travel agents earlier. So think about when you're booking, why do you book through an online travel agent? Easy, top of the list. Anyone else? Oh, interesting, so it's cheap, as in you think the rooms are cheaper? Better deal, interesting, okay. Anyone else that's not maybe in the accommodation? So anyone that's not running accommodation business, be interested to get some feedback on that? Recommendations, okay. So they're reading their reviews that you see from other people that have booked. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Secure, okay, so you feel it's secure. Excellent, okay, some good points there. So I think some other things to add to that is sort of choice. It's easy to find on lots of devices, it's easy to book, and I think also something they're doing a lot about at the moment is this concept of loyalty. We've all possibly heard of Booking.com's Genius program. You can get Nectar points if you book on Expedia. You also, if you book 10 hotel nights with Hotels.com, you get one free. Not a sales pitch there, but that's the reality. So these guys are finding other ways, and also they're doing something they call commission sacrifice. So each of these online travel agents charge a percentage to the hotel to receive a booking, and they will actually, in effect, give up some of that to drop the price a bit to encourage you as a guest to actually book. So they're always finding different ways to drive business. So our message is very much about working with online travel agents to the advantage. So there's accommodation businesses in the room today, whether you're a self-catering, a glamping unit, a hotel, B&B, whatever you might be, there are lots of agents out there that are relevant, and the reality is that the guests are using them. And the key message from us is it's very much about the control. So it's ensuring that you're in control of how you work with that agent. So it's ensuring that you're setting the policies, the payment terms, the prices that you're happy with, that suits your business. So whatever tool you're using or however you're set up, is making sure that you're setting what is right for your business. Interestingly, around about 30% of guests will go to view a property website. I'm one of those, I will do that. So if I'm looking for accommodation, I'll go onto an agent because that's the quick way to find it. And then I would go to your website because your website for me is your shop window. So if I see something that looks rubbish, I would then assume that is the case. So I think that's very, very important that by working through the online agents, it can help drive bookings direct as well. So the next thing that's very important is then talking about your website. And I think Jenna made a few points about this earlier, so I'm going to repeat a few things here. But the key thing is that if there's no booking experience, so again, whether that's whatever type of accommodation, if there's no ability to book, then the reality is that the percentage that you're going to get through your website is obviously going to drop, because again, guests are looking for that simplicity, that convenience. So it's possible to drive up your direct bookings by having the ability for guests to be able to book direct. And again, for those members in the room, and we all talked earlier about a lot of the statistics of what Visit Somerset are doing in terms of driving traffic to their website, ultimately that is then looking to drive traffic to your website. And if your website is not set up to capture that in the right format, there's a good chance you'll potentially lose a booking conversion there, whatever product that you're selling. Okay, so go through another few questions back at you. So this is kind of what guests find generally on businesses' own websites. So we've gone out and done a lot of research, looking at thousands of properties, and also talking to guests as well. So around about 70% agree they want to book and pay online. But what they actually find is the majority of small independent accommodation sites do not have the ability to book. And I'm not talking now about just showing some availability. I'm talking about being able to take a credit debit card. We talked about the importance of transactions earlier, and being able to actually book that product there and then, or that service. Again, we talked about smartphones earlier, so the key thing with smartphones is most people are using mobile devices. If you think about how you access the internet, so what we do is sit in front of the telly, the advert comes on, the phone comes out, and you have a little kill some time on the phone. The reality is that more and more people are using, so I think it's up to about 75–80% of users on Google now, or something like that. So the point is, the website needs to be there. But I'm personally as well still seeing websites that are not responsive. And I hear things from businesses saying, oh yeah, I need to get round to that. I haven't got round to that. It's going to cost me a lot of money. I know I need to do it. So do it, basically. I mean, that's really, 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 really important. And photography, again, this is something that I'm sure a lot of you have heard, hopefully, in a lot of seminars and sessions you may have attended over the months and the years. The reality is that guests are put off by poor photography. If you think about the way when you book even on something like Amazon or eBay, or you're booking a product like even a CD, they're showing you a photo of that CD or that film that you're buying. But you know what that is because you're selecting it. But the point is, by seeing it, you feel it's a little bit tangible, and you're more happy to purchase it. So having photos is important, but the statistics are quite worrying that around about 90% of properties don't show a bathroom photo. If you're not showing a bathroom photo, there's a perception that you're hiding something from the potential guest. So it's something to sort of bear in mind. Sometimes though bathrooms are difficult to take a photo of, but find a way to do it. It's better to have that in there, showing what the guest is getting, than what might seem like you're hiding something that they won't like. So a couple of just examples of photos going on about this point here. So that's just obviously it's the same place. Again, these are sort of just examples of how, by just spending a little bit of time and investment, yes, you can go around with a smartphone and take a few photos, but you will get much, much better return investing in a photographer and actually getting them done properly, because the conversion rates of seeing a proper quality photo is higher, much, much higher than just something you've knocked up with your iPhone. Okay, so a couple of things around what's kind of next. So voice search, who has an Alexa or a Echo Pod, a Home Pod or anything like that? Who's still got a voice those devices? Okay, I'm not putting my phone up there, I don't actually have one of those. But the reality is there's a massive, massive growth in that now. And I think it's quite funny when you see, potentially you can't imagine people walking down the street talking to their mobile phone, but then, you know, that's the world we're in now. And you know, I don't know if there's some of the students are still in the room, or if I think they might have all gone, actually. But I was going to ask them in terms of, from that sort of age group, how they're using this technology. And the reality is that there's a massive growth in mobile voice search. This has just we're becoming more and more lazy, where we can't even be bothered to type in the search we're looking for. We're literally just saying what we want. Now, what's really interesting is about how you search for that. Because if you think about how you type into Google, you would just type something quick. Again, we're trying to do the quickest. We're just going to put Hotel Weston-super-Mare. We're not going to type I'm looking for a hotel. Okay, but when you're talking, what you notice is you actually would talk to it in a more polite way. So you would actually put a more natural thing, like you'd say, oh, can you find me a hotel in Weston-super-Mare near the beach? Whereas the way you would type that is nothing like that. So when it's coming to your website, it's important to start now for everyone to looking into what I'm referring to as kind of voice SEO, voice search engine optimize your website. The first thing is it needs to be mobile responsive. We're banging on about that point, but I'm going to say it again, because most people are using the mobile to search in the first place. The content needs to be more natural. So gone the days of where you would almost just put a few kind of keywords, hotel, Weston-super-Mare, beach, pier, whatever it might be. You've almost got to write it a bit more natural. Having an FAQ page, so a frequently asked question page, would be really useful, because again, you're asking a question, because the content is a question and the guest is asking a question. And also claiming you're listed on Google Maps. So this is the Google Business Center. It's all free, Google Business Listing. Any business can do it. Go on, register that, take ownership, because this will all help show the legitimacy of your business. So voice search is something that I think we really, really need to take care. You know, we talk about millennials. The reality is the generation before that, if you think what they've now got and what they use, it's quite astonishing really how they're searching, how they're interacting with their friends. They're not really even texting anymore. They're actually just talking and recording what they're saying. A friend of mine had an overseas student with him, and he wasn't even writing to his friend. He would record what he says on his phone, then send it to his friend. So let's meet at 8 o'clock tonight, and then send it. Couldn't even be bothered to type it. So these are some of the things that people are using to try and speed up the way that they interact. So thinking about voice search and how that impacts you. And I mentioned there about messaging. So again, I'm sure who here uses WhatsApp? Yeah, exactly. So that's massive growth there. I use that now over texting, because it's just instant, quicker. You know if the message has got there, which sometimes is not a good thing when you're receiving stuff, because you're wondering why haven't you responded. But in terms of one-to-one messaging, that's something that's getting really, really, really big, because again, we want that instant, quick response. And you can do so much in it, and it's secure. You can send a photo easily. It's all free to use. So within WhatsApp, there are things that they call broadcast lists. So this is, in effect, it's like doing an email send to an e-shot, but you're doing it to everyone's, in effect, their mobile number. Obviously, you have to have their permission to do that. But the reality is, if you can create a list of contacts of guests that have stayed with you, and you can actually send out, in effect, what is like an e-shot, but you do it via WhatsApp. Because I bet now, if you do, everyone here does what I do, they go through their email inbox and probably delete 99% of it straight from their phone, don't even open it. That's what I find. I spend most of my days clearing out the rubbish and eventually unsubscribing. So the reality is, by getting those messages there, people are going to see them and they want to interact like that. And consider it on a way, I'll come on to that a bit in a minute, but consider it on how you interact with your guests. So interacting with your guests through that as well. You know, when the guest has actually confirmed that they're coming to stay, maybe send them a message a few days before their check-in. So, but using the WhatsApp, they're more likely to pick that up and see the email that you sent them that might have gone in their junk folder. Again, you need permission, you need to get the authority to say it's okay, but sending them a message like that is more likely to get a response. They're more likely to see it and give you their check-in time than if you emailed it. Okay, so a few kind of key things that I wanted to, sort of what we call key takeaways that I think we can also take away and kind of implement now. So, working with the online travel agents, so for those accommodation businesses in the room, it's kind of making sure that you're working with as many as you can and retaining your control at all times. So always run things your way and that suits your business, but don't discount them. Work with them, they are growing. For those in the room may have heard that Airbnb have recently announced about a week or so ago that they're now going into the hotel space. So it's no longer going to be just somebody's spare room in their house. They are proactively targeting and proactively starting to advertise hotels and registered accommodation. Okay, so that's very, very interesting how that's going to grow. In terms of your website, so 3 kind of key things really: excellent photography and video, mobile responsive, and bookable and transaction. Those are the 3 really key things that a website needs to do from a tourism perspective. You can spend thousands and thousands on a website, but the reality is that those are the 3 key things that they need to be able to do, because that's what the guest is kind of looking for. And I think just starting to bear in mind and look at and think about these things that are coming, which is the voice searching. Go home, try it. Get your mobile out, search for accommodation in an area. Just use these tools. You've got them all. Try them, see how they work, and then you'll get a feel for how, I suppose, more the next generation are using them. And then also, have a little look at the WhatsApp. You can Google that WhatsApp broadcast list and look about how that can kind of work. Okay, thank you very much for your time. I don't know, we've got a few minutes for any questions at all, John? John's saying yes. So is there any questions that anyone would like to ask? Okay, that's a good thing or bad thing. Thanks very much, everybody. I'm over there, so if you have any other questions, I'm here for the rest of the session. So thank you very much for listening. Oh, a statement, okay.
I wonder if you'll just tell people what the West Country Tourism Conference, when Booking.com did a presentation, they talked about their 1% repeat rate. I don't know if you remember. I just think it would be really helpful if we reiterated that.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course. No worries. So Tina's referring to a conference that was in Exeter a few weeks ago. I was involved in a panel with Booking.com. Very brave of them to come down. And they got some really good questions, and one of the questions they had was this concern over, because for those that don't know, Booking.com and the other online travel agents, they charge a commission, a percentage of the sale for the total stay. Okay, so that amount is paid by the accommodation owner to Booking.com or Expedia or whoever it might be for that sale of that room. So one of the concerns was that the fact that people keep going back to Booking.com to book. So if you're a guest, you would just, in other words, they're paying commission on every single booking they get. Now, Booking.com came up with a statistic to tell us that actually only 1% of their bookings will repeat to the same property, which we thought was actually quite interesting. So that's just to clarify that the majority of people that are booking your accommodation business through the agents, they are bringing in new customers. That's their message. They're saying majority of the bookings that you're receiving through our channels are brand new customers every time. But saying that, that's why it's important that your website is up to speed and all the things I talked about, because if your website isn't all those things, then that customer may not come again, or they'll just keep going back to someone like an online travel agent to kind of book. Thank you, Tina. Okay, thank you, everybody.